Alrighty, folks, welcome on back to Lost Odyssey. Today we're going to do another 1,000 Years of Dreams. We're going to do Seth's Dream Part 2. I know you probably hate me, Irina, and Aniria. Or perhaps as the descendant of a noble white-winged clan, you harbor no such vulgar emotions as hatred. Kind and gentle as you are, perhaps you have forgiven me. Perhaps you have accepted what I did, and now you pity me for being trapped in the prison of solitude again. But still, good, kind Aniria, I insist on making one last selfish request. Please hate me. Please hate me for eternity. If I know that you hate me, I can remain connected to you. If I know that you have not forgiven me, the pain of that will enable me to feel you close to me. Are you laughing at my convoluted reasoning? Then let me say it more simply. I am lonely. I fear eternal solitude. That fear has been with me ever since I killed you with my own two hands. Wait, what? 900 years have passed since we first met. In the conventional way, I took a husband. Even more conventionally, I gave birth to a son. Soon after naming the baby Seth, my husband died in an epidemic. At his bedside, of course, I cursed the fate that would not let me die. Had you not been with me, Aniria, I would never have been able to find the strength to raise Seth by myself. You said to me, "There's no greater joy for a child to be born and to grow up healthy." Fitting words from you, sole survivor of the white-winged clan. You also said to me, "You'll be all right, Seth. You are no longer alone. Now you have Seth. You will never be alone as long as he is with you." I nodded to you in tearful recognition of the truth in your words, and you went on with some embarrassment. Leave Seth to me. I will train him to be a fully fledged man of the sea. If anyone should dare to threaten him, I will protect him with my life. How kind you were, Aniria. How truly kind. Even now, I can recall the carefree smile on your face when you were playing with Seth. He was such a frail little boy, but you steeled your heart to train him sternly, and on those days when he had cried himself to sleep, I often caught you in profile, watching him in sleep, your face suffused with ineffable gentleness. How glad I am, Aniria, that fate brought us together. In my long, endlessly long life, I can declare without hesitation that you were my finest companion. So why, Aniria, did events play out the way they did? To this day, I have no idea why. Do you? Did you know why those things were happening to you? This is what I would like to know. All the more so because I can no longer learn the answer. I desperately want to know it. It happened 30 years ago. I said goodbye to you and Seth, and made my way to the Tower of Mirrors. For the memory had come back to me, the mission on which I had come to this world, the task I had been sent here to accomplish, and the reason I possessed memories of 1,000 years spent in this world. I was a pirate who prized freedom above all, and what I enjoyed most of all was living wildly on the open sea. Exactly why I was so drawn to freedom, I myself did not know. But that was when I learned, deep in the heart of one who desires freedom lies the pain of freedom denied. It was you, Aniria, who first taught me the expression, prison of solitude. And it was true. I was trapped in a prison of solitude. Not simply, however, because I was confined in a cave on a desert island. For me, being in this world was itself a prison of solitude. When I came to realize this, I headed for the Tower of Mirrors in order to return to the world where I had come from. Nourished by my 1,000 years of memories of having lived in this world, I would return to the world where I belonged. In the Tower of Mirrors he was waiting, Gongora, the man with whom I was supposed to return to my original world. I had no way of knowing, however, that this was a trap Gongora had set for me. I can never forget how he stood there, spread-legged, defiant, before the Tower of Mirrors, laughing that arrogant laugh of his. My stomach turns when I recall his hateful face, and my flesh creeps when I think of his cunning, fearsome trap. Gongora had no intention of returning to our former world. Instead, he hatched a fiendish plot to make himself ruler of this world, and anyone who resisted him he crushed without mercy. I was one of those who stood in his way. As soon as I learned of his evil design, I flew back to my pirate ship. Of course, such a monster could not be satisfied with merely waiting for me there. Knowing him, I felt a terrible foreboding. "Sed? Aniria?" I screamed as I leapt onto the ship, and the next second I saw with a gasp that my foreboding had been correct. Both Sed and you were there, Aniria, on the deck. Sed lay bleeding, and you, when you became aware of me and slowly turned in my direction, you had a strange gleam in your eye, and there was something in your mouth. It was Sed's leg. You had ripped it from his body. Ouch. All sound faded. Sed lay there in a sea of blood, his leg torn off, trying to cry out to me. I couldn't hear a thing. I couldn't read his sorrow-filled eyes, however. His plea, "Don't blame Aniria. It's not his fault." I'm sure I must have said something. What happened? Or perhaps, how did this happen? Or, calm down, Aniria. Or, be strong, Sed. But then again, I may have simply screamed, too rattled to pronounce coherent words. In any case, I could not hear my own voice. You were glaring at me, Aniria. Your eyes shone horribly. You were no longer the Aniria I knew. You had been possessed by some wholly other being. Why, Aniria? Why? You spit out Sed's leg and let it drop to the deck. And then you came after me. Sed's voice broke the silence when he shouted, "Stop!" Was he screaming at you, Aniria, or at me to stop? The whole scene became enveloped in a white light. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on the deck. As I slowly opened my eyes and raised myself, I realized that my sword was gone. I only had an empty scabbard at my waist. I looked around with shock, and there you were, Aniria, lying on your back. My sword had been plunged into your chest and stood there like a grave marker. "Aniria!" I screamed and ran over to you. I started shaking you, but your eyes were shut tight, and there was no sign that they would ever open again. I shouted at you to wake, to come back to me. Then I shouted to Sed, "Hurry, Sed, come here, Aniria is..." But there was no reply from Sed. Having lost so much blood, he was unconscious. If only you had been merely unconscious, Aniria. If only you had been badly wounded but alive. If only you could have started breathing again. But my sword had done its job to horrifying perfection. It had pierced your chest exactly where it needed to in order to take your life. I stared at your corpse uncomprehendingly. Oh, Aniria, lone survivor of the proud white-winged clan. Tell me, please tell me, what happened? Was I the one who killed you? I sensed someone approaching from behind, turned to find Gongora staring at me, expressionless. "You killed him," he said softly, his voice devoid of emotion. I shook my head, wincing. "No." My voice was hoarse, trembling. Gongora went on, as if slowly pressing his words into my ears. "It was you. You killed him." "No, I would never do such a thing." The trembling of my voice spread to my entire body. To think that I might have killed you, Aniria, with my own hands. That could never be. This was what I wanted to believe, but the reality before me was shattering such hopes. Gongora threw back his head in contemptuous laughter, all but proclaiming his victory over me. "You see now, Seth. You see what you've done. Killed the ones you most loved. You are on your way back to the prison of solitude. Again, he laughed aloud. And he was still laughing as he left the deck. This man, who, knowing I could never die, set a trap for me that was crueler than death itself. I collapsed where I stood. Looking up at the sky, I felt the tears pouring down my face. Tears of blood. Again, I was purged into eternal solitude, never to be released from it by death. Gongora succeeded in locking my heart in darkness again, sealing my memories with it. I wept uncontrollably. I screamed until it all but ripped my throat to shreds. If my heart, my mind and soul were something lodged inside my chest, I would have torn it out. Help me, Aneria. Help me. Well, I think we got some more backstory on that. I did not know that Gongora was an immortal, and I think from one of the cutscenes that we saw in the last couple episodes, we knew that Gongora was from another world, but we didn't know that all of the immortals were from another world. At least I don't think we knew that yet. So it was a good dream. I would have loved to actually have met Aneria in game. That would have been awesome, but I guess that's not to be. So I'm going to end today's episode off here. I hope you folks enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button down below. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and checking out some of my other content. And as always, I will catch you folks in the next episode. Stay frosty out there.